How's it going, everybody? I'm Drifty from Driftwood Gaming. Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, the 2018 series where we use RPG Maker MV Engine to create a sim RPG game. Thank you guys so much for all of the constructive criticism and the slew of ideas that you've thrown at me via the comments in the YouTube videos. I really appreciate all of that. It helps the channel to show engagement and it gives me great ideas to put in the game. So I'm going to be crediting you guys for your ideas, and let's talk about some of the ideas that have been suggested so far. Drop the sword, bring back the bow. We're probably going to bring back the bow. I'm going to keep the sword though, just in case we do some sort of fighting system, maybe towards the end of the game. Josh Gonzalez, great idea with the upgradable tools. We'll probably do something like that, and we will have some sort of refinery and everything, a hammer, and I really like your ideas, Josh. Keep them coming. Add a shovel for sand. I believe we did that. That's why I put an asterisk next to it. Anything that I've already done, put an asterisk so that I can skip over it henceforth. SimPro Studios says tool ideas. Thank you for the ideas. Procedural generation of mines. I don't know if I'm going to do procedural generation. If I do, it'll be towards the end and like a new game plus type of thing. So I don't know even how I would go about doing that. I've done it before with procedural generation where it's baked out procedural generation, where it's just like I'll make 100 maps and then assign a random number and then it'll pick one of those selections. It's not actual procedural generation. I'll have to figure out if I even want to do this, how I'm going to go about doing it. Travis Newcomb, I do plan to add a GUI. That's a great idea. We might actually look at some of that today in this episode, add some sort of graphical user interface so that we can see how much gold we've got, images for how many mines we control, how many other resources we have. Change the stat names. I just did that. That's a great idea, Travis Newcomb, to change the stat names. We are going to be doing that probably several times, actually. Require stat checks to construct new buildings. I hadn't thought about that. Check to see how much intelligence you have to how well the mine works. If I add something like this, it'll probably be an amendment that we do later on. It's a great idea, Travis. Add sawmills to refine the wood from Lumberjack's post. I do love this idea. Angel Hernandez. I like the idea of taking resources from one part of the game, harvested from one endeavor, and then using them in a different good way to do crafting. And I feel it would probably add some extra incentive to take over a second lumber mill. Angel Hernandez says to add a sawmill to refine wood, like building bridges and ships. It's a great idea. Add a cotton farm for clothing. I had not thought about something like that, but why not, right? That's pretty cool. Maybe the armor we craft will provide extra stats for making the mines better if we have our stats checked when we construct new buildings. Add a trading post. This was something that stuck out. I really do think a trading post would be something that we would need to have in a game like this. Add horses and cows as natural resources. And here's another unique one. Unlock the sprinting once you obtain horses, because it is a world map, so sprinting around on the world map seems a little weird, but I'm trying to make the game fun and increase the gameplay by allowing it. However, I may decide to take this suggestion of adding horses and cows and maybe let the player pay a certain fee to claim ownership over their grazing land, and then that lets you obtain horses, which would immediately unlock sprinting once you have horses. So that's a cool little idea I might put in right at the beginning. Good job. The Boosted Journal says add a random chance for higher quality items like diamonds or rubies from mining. That's a great idea, and it shouldn't be too hard to do that. And also suggested that there be multiple types of pickaxes. Danny Smickle asks about the story. Well, we'll have to come up with something. Anime Wonderland suggests we make a whip like Indiana Jones. If we do exploration maps, which is something I haven't really talked about yet, I think this is where this whip would make sense. I think I wrote them down as investigate maps, but they're like little adventure maps. You can investigate a certain part of the world depending on the region. There could be random chance for certain things on that little tile. Labato suggests we add scythe weapons and a character named Alexa that tells you stats. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Another re-add the bow and hunting mechanic idea from Fusion of the Aces also agrees. So the bow is coming back by popular demand. Werewolf CZ suggests an interesting system, one that was not very different from the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, where it's like a karma system. Your interactions with NPCs can raise or lower your karma. Also suggests that we add modular endings based on karma and also adjusting store prices based on karma. Maybe we'll do something like that, but when it comes to modular endings, it could be a lot of extra work. Maybe we will. We'll see how it goes. It depends on how much story we add, really. running. And also Werewolf suggests that we add yep_event mini labels. I do plan to add this just for every event, not just the NPCs. So yeah, that's our idea comments as of right now. Keep adding those comments and suggestions below. I will add them to the text file. Even if they don't get added to the game, we'll talk about them and discuss why or why not that would be a good or bad idea. So I've already adjusted the parameters and changed the names of our stats, since we're not really focusing on a lot of combat early on. We've got strength, endurance, clout, reputation, speed, and charisma. Now these are just arbitrary names I threw out and will probably change several times throughout the process, so I don't want to go into too much what each thing is going to do. We'll have to figure it out. I kind of want to change clout back to intelligence. So it'll be, because clout and reputation are very similar. I think intelligence is a good one to have. So we'll go with strength, endurance, intelligence, reputation, speed, and charisma for now. We'll hit apply, hit okay, save a game. Let's look at the map real quick. We got our start menu. We've changed the tile set by slightly modifying it in Photoshop and adding some filters and adding contrast and whatnot. We created a custom animation based off the earth pattern animation. We changed the image that was being used to the recovery 4, and then we edited that image in Photoshop to become something different, and then we edited the animation pattern itself, creating something really custom and weird looking. Probably not final version. T has mentioned that she may make a few extra resources for this project. Where we left off last time was we finished the resource part for the town. This is giving us 100 gold every 10 seconds. And we started the mine process to construct a mine. But we left off right here, so I kind of want to jump back into this event, try to get something more satisfying out of this. Before we start messing with this event, I want to add a couple of plugins. I'm going to add the message core to give me a little bit more control over manipulation of show text. To add plugins, it's very simple. Download them by right-clicking Save the Link As, if it's a JS file link, and put it in your game's JS plugins folder. Once it's in the folder, you open your plugin manager, double-click, and it will populate from the drop-down menu. Every single time you add a new plugin, you want to test run your game just to make sure if something broke, you can identify it was the most recent plugin that you just added that could be the culprit for the problem with the game not running. If you make the mistake that many of us have done in the past by adding 5 to 10 plugins at once and then running the game, you may come across the problem of the game not running. At that point, you'll actually have to go through and deactivate and remove all of those plugins except for one at a time, just to figure out which one was the culprit. So do it this way: add a plugin, test run your game to make sure it runs. If everything runs fine and as intended, then you're good. And if it doesn't, then you know it was the most recent plugin that was the problem. In that instance, you may try to move your plugin up and down to change the outcome. It may sound silly, but a simple thing of moving your plugin up or down in the list can change the way that the game reads it. I'm also going to download the extension plugins for the message core. The Yanfly Extended Message Pack 1 and 2. When adding extension plugins, it's very important that you add them below their dependent plugin. So this is the message core, and these are the message core extension packs. It should be in your plugin manager in this order: the core plugin and then the extension plugins underneath that. Because we're going to be manipulating several items, I'm going to be adding the item core from Yanfly as well. I do like the idea of adding the trade station, or like a trading hub inside for all the resources. The default shop menu in RPG Maker MV isn't the greatest, and Yanfly has made a significant change in the quality of using the interface, so I'm going to use the shop menu core as well as its extended plugin. Together with the shop menu core and the More Currencies plugin, we'll be able to make some sort of trading hub. One of the more recent Yanfly plugins, the Options core, is a very fantastic plugin that I'm deciding to add. I have a strong feeling that I'm going to be using the event copier in this project, so I'm going to add it now. From the beginning, I knew I was going to use the event mini label, and I have also received a special request to add event mini labels to NPCs, so we're going to add this plugin as well. I've also added the event timer control in case I want to have like a timer at the beginning of the game to see how long the player has been playing, or to use it for some other feature. For now, a lot of these plugins are going to be turned off, and remember to test the game to make sure that it still runs when you add a new plugin. Looks like we're good after adding all those plugins. A couple of my favorite plugins are used to manipulate common events. The button common events plugin, which we're definitely going to be adding, and the picture common events. Keyboard config is a very good plugin. However, we're not going to be adding it because we're going to be using the button common events plugin, and there are some conflicting errors when you use the keyboard config plugin with the button common events plugin. I do intend to add grid-free doodads and the extended doodad pack, as these are masterpiece plugins crafted by Yanfly. We're going to keep them turned off until I need them, as with most other plugins. I do intend to use them at some point, so I'm going to add them now. Some plugins, like the icon balloons plugin from Yanfly, will require that you add extra assets into the game for it to function properly. So we're going to be adding the icon balloons, as I feel it'd be a good thing to add when we gain gold from a town or coal from a mine. It would be a cool thing to show an icon pop up so that the player, if they happen to be near the event, the player can see what they've actually obtained. So in order to get the icon balloons to work in your game, you'll have to of course download the plugin, which goes in your JS plugins folder, and you'll also have to add a new image to your img/system folder. So to get this, you right click it and you save the image as inside your game's img system folder, just like that, and now the plugin will read properly. Don't forget to add it and save your game. Maybe the map gold window plugin could be used to display our gold resource, but I kind of want to integrate a custom GUI, so I'm going to skip over the map gold window. I may come back to it later on. Region restrictions plugin from Yanfly is a must-have in almost every project. That being said, I'm going to add it. Since this game is going to rely so heavily on Since our game relies so much on common events, it would be a great idea to add the utility common events plugin from Yanfly to allow for more ways to call upon common events. So we're definitely going to add the utility common events plugin. And we've added our last plugin. We'll once again run a test to make sure that everything plays nice. I realize that I've added a lot of plugins in this video, and you don't have to go about it this way and do it. As a matter of fact, it's probably better that you don't go down the list of plugins and think, oh, I'm going to add this one, I'm going to add this one right at the beginning of the project. I didn't do that necessarily at the very beginning of the project because I wanted to get a baseline structure of what I plan to include in this project and get a little bit of feedback to see what people suggest. And then once I had a basic understanding of the direction I'm going to take this project, I can see the suggestions that people are making. I can find the resources, the plugins I need to put into the game to make that happen. This is my list of plugins that I've added. There will be more that get added, most likely. This is actually a very small number. It may seem like a lot of plugins, but I've had some projects where I've had over 100 plugins going on. This is a very small list of plugins, and I think we've picked out some very, very useful ones. They are all Yanfly, and I do plan to add more non-Yanfly plugins, but for now, I know all of these plugins will play very nice with each other. It sometimes becomes very frustrating when you come across a couple of plugins that you really like what they do, but they're not compatible with one another, or one of them is made for a previous version of MV, and because they've updated the Pixie engine, they no longer work, so you'll come across compatibility errors in the plugins. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses and decide which plugins you want to use and which plugins you have to lose. I've gone with a starting setup of Yanfly plugins because I know they're all going to be up to date and working properly and compatible with one another. So far, a few of them are turned off, which is fine. We may turn a few more off, or we may turn these back on and add more as we go along. Our game runs as intended. Let's go back into this event and turn the mine into something better. Boosted Journal has recommended we have a random chance for higher quality items like diamonds or rubies when we're mining. So let's talk about how we can add that. When we are adding our ore, we can just run a same check to see if we get a different item. So we can do that random check again. We'll create a variable and we'll call it rarity check. And we can use this same variable over and over, setting it to a random value between 1 and whatever we want. I use 100 because it helps me visualize a percentage. We'll have to create some new items, so let's go ahead and jump over there and go down the rabbit hole. We will call this one a diamond. Actually, we should do coal and diamond. Select an icon for the coal and the diamond. So we've created our coal and our diamond. Let's jump back to our common event, edit the item that we obtain based on a rarity check. Once the switch for mine timer is turned on, if the party has a pickaxe, we control a variable that sets the timer in motion, adding 1 to it every frame. Once the value of that variable reaches over 300, we know 5 seconds has passed because every second 60 has been added to the value. We control a variable to check the rarity. We're setting it to a number between 1 and 100. Now we'll create conditional branches that will award the appropriate item based on the number that was rolled. We'll start with the bulk of it. If rarity check is less than or equal to 75, we'll also add an else handler for this check. Then what we'll do is add the or. Inside here, inside the else handler, we'll do another conditional checking the same variable if rarity check is less than equal to. The reason why we're doing this in the else handler and not outside of an else handler is because we have to check to see if it was 75 before we use the higher number of 95. So if it was 95 or less, we'll create an else branch. It's going to award a different item. In this case, it's going to award the coal. On the else handler for this, we're going to check if if rarity check is rolled greater than equal to 96. We won't need an else branch. Alternatively, you can skip the else handler on this one if you want, because we're switching the way it's checking from less than equal to greater than equal to. If it rolls 1 to 75, we're going to get an or. Otherwise, if it rolls anything between 76 and 95, it's going to give us a coal. However, if it rolls greater than equal to 96, then it's going to give us a diamond. Now we added a plugin that would let us pop up an icon balloons. So it would be cool if we can throw an icon above the mine to signify which item we just obtained. In order to do that, since we're calling it from a common event, not the actual event itself, we're going to have to specify which event it pops up on. We're going to use a plugin command show icon balloon X on event Y. The X will be the icon number and the Y will be the event number. To add that, we'll go to where we're going to be adding the or. We'll create a new command. We'll go to tab 3 and add plugin command. We'll paste that in there. So for X, we need to figure out what icon we want to use for the or. And for Y, we need to figure out where we want the balloon to appear. So let's figure out those numbers. We can find our icon if we jump over to the items or skills and we look at the number. Even if we open the menu, it'll show you the number in the bottom left corner. For the or, we're using 305. For the coal, we're using 686, and the diamond, we're using 655. We have to find the number of the event we want to use. So we'll double click on the event and we can see the event's ID in the top left. Even if we rename the event to something, the ID will never change. We're going to reference ID number 3. We're going to show icon balloon 305 on event number 3. We'll copy this event and paste it under the coal and the diamond. The only thing we'll have to change is the icon that we want to display. We still don't have any way to test this event because we have to have a pickaxe in order for this to even work. For debugging purposes, until we create our store, I'm going to award the player some pickaxes. We'll start with 10 pickaxes. We'll add a way to create or buy them shortly. Even though we have pickaxes and the money to start the mine, there's still some logic problems going on in this event, because once this thing runs a single time, it's going to turn off the timer. It's going to turn off the switch that runs the timer. Well, in order to keep this running, we're just going to remove the control switch that turns off this event. This thing is going to keep running once it's been activated. It's very likely that I overlooked something and we'll come across an error in the logic, which is part of making a game. When and if that arises, we'll figure out a solution for it. For now, let's test what we have. Every 10 seconds, we are getting money from the town that we are mayor of. We are running it very successfully. It's creating us money. And once we have enough money, 1,300, we'll be able to turn on the switch that starts the mine. There we have 1,300 monies. Let's construct a mine right here. We need to add some sort of signification or, oh, there it's working. So it looks like it's generating an ore for us. Did it consume a pickaxe? Okay. So it generated 12 ore for us, 2 coal and 3 diamonds very quickly. So there's a problem in here somewhere. So it generated a bunch of items, it ate all the pickaxes up. We need to figure out what the problem is. Oh, we obviously need to reset our timer back to 0. So at the end of this event, we will control our variable and set our mine timer variable back to 1. So the timer will restart after it cycles through this event each time. We may need to move this to optimize it. Like I said, we'll encounter several errors in the logic and we'll have to continually work on them to amend and improve the system. We've constructed a mine. 5 seconds should go by and we should see an icon pop up. Okay, it's running this. Okay, I see the problem. The problem is every time it runs this, it's resetting the timer, so the timer is only going 1 0 1 0 1 0. So let's simply remove this and add the variable reset to right after it shows the icon and awards an item. Okay, I think I fixed all the bugs, but we'll have to test it again. It's going to work like this. The switch gets turned on from starting the mine. We bought it. We have a pickaxe in the inventory. It controls the variable as long as we have that pickaxe. Everything right here is going to happen once the timer has reached over 300, which means 5 seconds has gone by. It shouldn't check every frame to see if we lose a pickaxe. And for the sake of time, I'm going to change this to require 1,000 gold since we start with that instead of 1,300. Instead of just making me wait 30 seconds every time to test it. Also, for some reason, I was under the impression that this plugin would add a comma whenever I put in, say, 1,000 without the comma after the 3 zeros. Maybe I'm overlooking something, but I don't see it in the message core or extended message pack. It's likely that I'm overlooking something, but I don't see it, so I'm gonna have to add those commas manually. All right, let's test it again. Construct a mine, it'll cost 1,000 money. Let's build a mine here. If this works, we're gonna add an animation and some sort of success sound effect. Oh, okay. Hey, every 5 seconds, it's showing us what the mine is adding, the icon as well. It's added 3 ore, but it hasn't consumed any pickaxes yet, so I need to make sure that it's actually taking pickaxes. There needs to be a 50% chance, approximately. So it's given us 4 ores. It's very unlikely that's getting heads 4 times in a row on a coin, which is possible, but it's likely that we have messed something up. 6 ores and it hasn't consumed a single pickaxe yet. That's getting a little crazy on the statistics. Let's check where that is at. Okay, what we need to do is set this so that if the timer is greater than equal to 300, that might be where we're going wrong. Okay, so we got coal this time. Oh, and it seems to be working. Got coal again. Didn't take a pickaxe this time. That's good. Coal a third time. It did not consume a pickaxe. It's definitely not consuming pickaxes correctly. So let's take a look at that again. Typically, what I'm about to do is not good coding or eventing because it's called redundancy, but I just want to check to see if this is the problem. So I'm going to cut this chunk of code here, this chunk of event here, and paste it underneath every possible outcome. It's not exactly what I want to do because it's repeating the same code. You shouldn't have the same code in multiple places usually, but I want to see if that makes a difference. The problem we're encountering is it doesn't seem to be consuming pickaxes appropriately. That time it did. It should be a 50-50. I should have about 20 resources by the time I run out of pickaxes. It seems to be working now. Okay, so that works. Very strange why I have to have it in every space. But we started with 10 pickaxes with approximately 50% chance to lose them upon gaining resources. We have 22 resources. We have 22 here, so it's consuming them appropriately. And it also appears to have stopped working once we run out of pickaxes, as intended. The switch is still on. The mine timer is still working. Okay, apparently the game's locked up. So be careful with your parallel process events. I don't know, I guess we've created an infinite loop and the game is locked up. It seemed to have been working perfect. I don't know what the problem is now. I guess we have a parallel process event that has nothing happening when the party has no pickaxe. I'm gonna try something to fix this potential infinite loop. On the conditional that controls this entire thing, checking if the party has a pickaxe, I'm gonna add an else branch. On this else branch, when the party does not have a pickaxe, I'm gonna turn off the timer. So we're gonna control the switch that's for mine timer 1 and turn it off. This will stop the parallel event from happening once the mine has been purchased and we run out of pickaxes. The problem is, now that this switch is off, we may need to pay to start the mine again, which is not what we want to do. So we may need to add a secondary switch, or we could even use a self switch for this. In this instance, once we've paid for the mine, we'll turn on a self switch. Control self switch A. We're going to copy this page and paste it with self switch A being on. Now once we paid for this, we no longer want to prompt the player to purchase the mine again. So let's change the text here by deleting it, and also we can get rid of this entire thing. But what we probably should do is inform the player, would you like to start or stop the mines? You may have ran out of resources. I also need to get out of this rabbit hole again, figure out a way to stop the endless loop. So we'll show choices and we'll say start the mine. And it might actually be a great idea to include a stop on the mine in case we find a better mine that harvests higher quality resources at a similar consumption rate of pickaxes. So yeah, I'm gonna go with this for now. I'm also going to have 3 be make no change. So the default, the cancel choice will be 3, and I'm also going to set the default to 3 so that when we go here, after we paid for it, we can make no change if we accidentally spam it. I'm also going to add an arbitrary move event. All right, so we've made a show text asking a question to start the mine, stop the mine, or make no change. If the player chooses to restart the mine, what's going to happen is we're going to turn on the timer again. We'll control a switch. The mine timer 1 will turn it on. In the case that they want to stop the mine, we can turn the switch off. And make no change, we'll just have the player move down. While we're editing the event, I want to add an animation to play, or when we first purchase the mine, I want some sort of satisfying, you've purchased a mine there. There's an installation here now. Let's do something. I'm gonna take this Pierce Fire pattern, bring it down to 123, paste that, change the images to something else. I don't know. Did I even change it? I think this might have been the same. Hit fire. We're gonna change this to something with earth. There, that one. It looks like that now. We're gonna change the sound effects from thunder to a sword. Take sword 5. Yep, I like that. You don't need a flash though. And take the fire sound effect. And yeah, the hammer sounds good because we're building something. And we'll flash the target red. I don't know if that'll matter. Cool, that'll work for now until we decide to change more. We will call this one install the mine animation, and this is animation 123. Go over to our common events. Actually, it's on the event itself. We'll jump back into that event, edit that, and when the player first purchases the mine, if they have the money, we'll include a new show animation, and we will add that. We can wait for completion on this one. Why not? All right, so we've made some changes. Let's take a look. Construct a mine here. Yep, build the mine. Played the animation. That was nice. It moved the player down. It should produce items. Awesome. So it consumed the 20 pickaxes and it gave us 18 resources. That balances out if we've consumed a total of test running 20 pickaxes with approximately 50% chance to consume a pickaxe. The first time we got 22, the second time we got 18, so that balances out perfectly. Even though it looks kind of funny and because it has repeated code in it, it still works and functions properly, so I'm going to use that. The other thing that we needed to test was would it lock the game up after the timer stopped, and I let the game run a little bit extra longer to see if it would lock up. So once we run out of pickaxes, even though we purchased the mine, we run out of pickaxes, we no longer have a parallel event that's running with an empty content, so it doesn't freeze the game, it doesn't lock it up. Our town is still generating us revenue, and our mine has stopped. So would you like to start or stop the mines? You may have run out of resources. We make no change, it just moves us down. If we stop the mine, it turns the switch off, which is already off. If we start the mine, it will turn the switch on. Let's see if it actually does anything. We don't have a pickaxe, so it shouldn't give us any resources. Right, and I feel like it turned it on and it immediately ran the check on the first frame, saw we had no pickaxe and just shut the switch back off. So if we try to start the mine and we have no pickaxes, we need to let the player know that the mine didn't start. It tried to, but we have no pickaxes, so it couldn't have started. So let's do that little notification, and I think that will be really nice. When we select start the mine, we're gonna run a conditional branch and check to see if the player has a pickaxe in their party, also using an else branch. If they have a pickaxe in the party, we can show text at this location saying the mine has been restarted. Otherwise, we're gonna say failed to restart the mine, we're out of pickaxes. Another cool thing you can do when you want to reference an item and choose the icon as well is you can use text codes. So we're going to use /II or the array value of 1. When we do /II, we can actually get rid of the name pickaxes, I think. When you use /II and then put a number, it's going to draw the icon of that item. Also include a text for letting the player know that the mine has been stopped. Construct the mine at this location. We got a cool little animation. The mine is working. It is generating us resources. We can see the icon popping up. We could add a sound effect if we want, but we got to think about in the future, how many sound effects do we want to have playing at the same time? Maybe we don't want to have every mine playing a sound effect. We'll just have a little bubble pop up. You know what we could use? Ah, the gab window. We can use a gab window for every time we gain a resource, it could just pop up on the gab window. You know what? I'm gonna have to add the gab window on the next episode because I'm already over 100 minutes recording. And I told myself I was just gonna record for 60 minutes and then edit. It takes so long to edit. Guys, we've made a ton of progress. I wanna let this event play out to make sure it doesn't lock up the game, and also just to see how many resources we get. It should be approximately 20 with the current setup. Also, I wanna see if we stop the mine. Let's stop the mine. We stop it now, the mine is stopped. Is it still gonna give us resources if we stop the mine how it is right now? No, it apparently has stopped like it's supposed to. We're left with the 4 pickaxes and the resources we've already gathered. The mine is stopped, and we can do other things if we don't want to consume our pickaxes. We can go back to the mine. Would you like to, we could say make no change, it just makes us go down. And if we say start the mine has been restarted. Does it pick up where it was? Yes, and resources start coming out again. It's consuming pickaxes. So let's see if it will show us the text for trying to restart the mine when we have no pickaxes, and then we've pretty much done everything I planned on doing. And we are out of pickaxes now. So it should no longer be awarding us any resources, and it's not. We go up and we say start or stop the mines. Let's say start the mine. Failed to restart the mine. We're out of pickaxes, and you can see if we type /II and then put in the number of the item, it actually puts the icon and the text, so I don't have to even type pickaxes. That's gonna do it for what we're going to tackle in this episode of Let's Make a Game for 2018 Natural Explorers. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please remember to give a thumbs up. I really appreciate those thumbs up. Can we get 100 likes? Can you smash that like button for me? Can we get 100 likes?
Guys, I really need 100 likes. Please do it.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys very much. Please continue to support me on Patreon if you find that what I do is important and helpful and you would like to show your support. I would really appreciate that. Patreon.com/driftwoodgaming. That is there. Patreon.com/driftwoodgaming. You guys are awesome. There will be a link in the description for our Discord if you want to come hang out and chat with us. We love to talk to you guys every day. And yeah, please keep the comments coming below. I really appreciate hearing all of your ideas and your amazing feedback. Your name will be added to the idea comments, the amazing text file that you need to be a part of. So please leave comments below if you have ideas, things you would like to see in this project. There's a lot of things we've got to get to. I've got a bunch of papers here written down of ideas, and I have a bunch of stuff that people have written already in comments. Keep them coming. We're gonna just handpick things in the next episode. Probably gonna add a couple more plugins. The gab window is gonna be something I just thought of last minute, which would be a good idea in order to help show what resources we get when we're off screen, so that the bubble that pops up, you know, we won't see it if it's off screen, but we can maybe have the gab window pop up to let us know that we're still getting resources. That's gonna do it for this episode. Stay awesome, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.